Hello, and welcome to Benson's Bullshit and Craftery, a new segment on the show where we decide to create some arts and crafts. And by create, I mean bullshit. Today, I'm going to teach you lovely folks at home how to create some origami. It'll be so much fun. Let's create my favorite piece of origami, shall we? So what you need to start off is a piece of paper. Any type of paper will do if you really want to be special about it. Afterwards, you're going to take the top right corner like I am and just fold it here and smooth it out. Let it be as smooth as my ass. And then you take the top left corner and bring it in to meet the folded corner. Nice and slow, no wrinkles. Remember, God didn't make us in his perfect image, so it's up to us to make perfect beings to make up for our sins. And then you fold the bottom left corner and bring it to the middle of the paper. Beautiful, isn't it? Simply satisfying. Now this next technique is very important. It's what makes this whole thing work. What you're gonna do is you're gonna lift the paper up from top to bottom and move your hands like I am until you hear the bones, I mean paper, crackling underneath. This is called the 1,000-fold crumple technique. And voila, a perfect origami ball. Beautiful, isn't it? You know, the paper ball is my favorite in a philosophical sense because it shows no matter how perfect and amazing you make things, changing too much can make it a beautiful disaster to the wandering eye. Kind of like how Paper Mario fans feel about the series at this point. How can such an idea like Paper Mario turn into one of the most beloved series of all time? You just take the plumber boy, sketch him out, bam, you have this series. Seems like it'd be forgotten, right? Well, you'd be surprised as it turns out to have so much charm to it and is also a turn-based RPG beloved by thousands. The first Paper Mario game took the world by storm on the N64 in 2000 for Japan and 2001 for everyone else. Intelligent Systems took some nods from Super Mario RPG for the SNES and created something special, becoming an underrated hit on the N64 for years and garnering much more acclaim nowadays due to its fun combat, colorful world, and great cast of characters. And then for the GameCube, we got Paper Mario The Thousand Year Door in 2004, and if you haven't heard about this game, where have you been for the past few years? Widely considered to be the best in the series and also one of the best RPGs of all time, the sequel turned everything up to 11 and brought so much to the table, attracting an even wider audience that is still desperately waiting for a port or a sequel to this day. I should know. I'm one of them. The Wii comes along a few years later, and so does Super Paper Mario in 2007. The game, unlike the first two, however, is not turn-based. It's basic platforming action for combat. This didn't sit well with a lot of fans at first, but appreciation and popularity have grown for the game over the years, and it's considered to be the dark horse of the series. It kind of makes sense that they changed the combat because the Wii was meant to attract more casual players to gaming, and this was the first Mario game released on the system, so it's only logical to change the features so a new audience can enjoy the game. The story was dark and emotional at times though, so die-hard fans still got half of what made the first two games spectacular. It was just the combat that threw people off. This was actually where I got my start in the series as a kid, and I love it so much. So many good memories with this game. But the change in combat in Super Paper Mario did bring about a new wave of change for the series, a wave that has led fans to drown in it rather than surf and have a good time. The series started to shift away from its roots with a lot of eyebrows raised, and no game did this more than Paper Mario Sticker Star on the 3DS in 2012, and, well... Yeah, it's a thing. I'm sure you've all heard about it at this point. But then in 2016, we got Paper Mario Color Splash for the Wii U, and I mean... Wait, I never owned a Wii U. Oh shit, this one might be good! Bottom line is, the series has been sort of abused, much like the Mario and Luigi series. Seriously, what is it with Mario RPGs to be neglected after a while? I like these more than the actual Mario games in some cases. It's kinda sad. In case you didn't notice the pattern though, every system minus the regular DS got a Paper Mario release. So with the Switch breathing fresh life into a ton of series, there is hope for a true return to the original formula. A port or a collection of the first 3 games even. Leaks started running rampant amidst other promises of a Mario collection to celebrate Mario's anniversary all this year. We were going apeshit. This was it. This was the true return of Paper Mario. Well, after 3 years into the Switch's life, we got a new Paper Mario game, and its trailer was shadow dropped by Nintendo. Oh. And it was releasing into the next month of July. Oh? And there was a little coverage of said game minus one or two small trailers, and then an actual showcase of the game that not only wasn't great, but was overshadowed by a Bakugan game.
Oh!
And it seemed like the game wasn't going to take itself seriously, with bosses being items in the real world, and also the fact that it may end up not having turn-based combat.
Oh!
And then, if all that wasn't bad enough, interviews leading up to the game showed that Intelligent Systems wasn't going back to telling stories like the first three games, and also hinted that Nintendo has an iron grip on how they make characters, meaning that they are no longer allowed to make original characters or modify characters from existing Mario lore like we know and love. Yeah, the tables were kind of stacked against this game from the first moment the trailer was just dropped. No direct or anything. The same thing that they did recently with Pikmin 3 Deluxe. That's two series that the fans have been dying to see ported or returned in some fashion to the Switch, just thrown to the wolves without a fuck given. It's like Nintendo has given up on them. Either way, the game came out July 17th, and surprisingly, reception has been better than expected. It still isn't the greatest, but people seem to really enjoy the game. The problem is, battles still seem to be more of a nuisance than a part of gameplay. Something fans have been hoping would be fixed, and considering Paper Mario is also about fighting enemies to gain XP and level up to face the worst of the worst, that's a no bueno. To say I'm anxious despite the praise of the game is an understatement.
It's finally here though, and I think it's about time that we take a look at the game and see if it's a true return to form for a paper-stashed hero, or if it's something that we'll never talk about again and light on fire instead. Major story spoilers are incoming though. Paper Mario always prides itself on its story just as much as it does on its innovative gameplay and its worlds. I would be damned if I don't talk about the story for this game. I know, all 19 of you are very excited to hear my verdict on this game. But if you haven't played it before and are watching this review, this is your last chance to go play the game and then come back to this video later. Are they gone? Okay. For the rest of you that stayed, I don't think we could delay this any longer. Let's set aside our anxieties, guys. This is Paper Mario the Origami King for the Nintendo Switch.
The game opens up with Mario and Luigi heading to Toad Town to celebrate the Origami Festival. They arrive, and instead of the sound of festivities, they are greeted with dead silence. Not a single Toad to be heard. They travel to Peach's castle, and upon entering they are met by Peach, but she isn't paper thin. She's been transformed into origami to the surprise of Mario. And what of those Toads? Shouldn't they be silenced for all of eternity?
Don't do that to me, you know I want to say yes.
Regardless of your answers to her rather agreeable statement and then the other junk, she throws you into the dungeon where Bowser's minions are. They don't stay long though, as they are led by Origami Shy Guys and never return. Before you can comprehend everything though, you hear a voice beckon to you for help, and get to control our first mechanic to help them, the Thousand-Fold Arm. Every time you step onto one of these lit up magic circles, you can activate this move, and either open more of the world, solve puzzles, or even use it during boss battles later on. When you use it, it's motion control based, so you have to use your Joy-Cons, or in my case my Pro Controller, to move the arms until you're given a prompt to grab on and either pull or bash something. I actually don't hate this. When I first saw this, I thought it'd be a gimmick, but it's used cleverly in certain scenarios, particularly the bosses. Moving the controller around is fluid, and I only had one moment towards the endgame frustrate me. Luckily, if motion controls aren't your thing, you could turn them off and use the analog stick. But I recommend using the motion controls. I don't know, the one puzzle that I used the stick for just felt sluggish compared to the motion controls, and it didn't sit well with me. I found the move way more enjoyable this way. Speaking of enjoyable, we use our first move to free our new companion, Olivia, a little origami girl. A lot of people find her annoying, to which I agree. For the first few hours. Yeah, she's not the most tolerable when she's constantly throwing tutorials at you and won't stop talking about everything, but after that, I started to adore her so much. She's not the best companion, sure, but she's got a lot of heart, energy, and attitude, which has led to some rather hilarious moments in the game. She's a top 10 companion in my book, and quite frankly, there's a lot to her beyond this cute spunk that I won't go over just yet. During our escape from the dungeon, we also get a glimpse at Bowser, who is stuck folded up, and
What the fuck just happened?
well, I'm certainly glad to see that the series still manages to keep its dark tone here. It's screwed up, honestly. Like, they're basically taking these paper people and crunching and folding them into origami zombies. Not only is it dark, but it sounds painful. I mean, imagine if someone decided to fold you up and crunch around your insides. It sounds like medieval torture. Regardless, we rescue Bowser and make our way to the top of the castle, only to be ambushed by Peach and some yellow Shy Guy who summons minions to fight us. leading us into our first look at the battle system and... Is this what a musical orgasm feels like? Cause, oh man, this battle music is so damn good. Every track in this game is fantastic as a matter of fact. My highlights are all the boss battle themes, regular battle themes, Shogun Studios, and Shroom City. Excellent mood setters. Let's get back on track and talk about the combat. It's not traditional turn-based combat. You fight in this game with a new system called the ring system. Enemies line up along the circle, and it's up to you to line them up so either they're in a straight line for a jump attack, or a group of 4 right in front of you for a hammer attack. If you solve the puzzle before time runs out, then you do additional damage to your enemies. If you don't, you do normal damage, but you run into the problem of getting damaged one way or another because you are only allowed a certain amount of actions to either use an item or attack in your turn, meaning the battle will last a bit longer. If you hit the A button at just the right time, you can do even more damage by getting an excellent rating. Same goes for blocking. Hit the A button at just the right time and you take less damage, which can be even less if you've equipped a guard accessory on top of it. These are staples to Mario RPGs, and I'm so happy to see it return. These features make the turn-based combat more engaging and keeps you on your toes. You'll never know how tough an enemy is until it's too late, which means you always have to strive to do more damage while taking less. It's a fun twist on RPG combat that veterans and newbies to the genre will find thrilling. As for the ring system, it's a great idea. In concept. Look, I love the idea of the ring system. It's a unique twist that adds puzzle and strategy to the battle system, but man, does it not realize its full potential during regular fights. I will give it this. They do get creative with the enemies deeper into the game, such as certain enemies only reachable with jumps, enemies disappearing as you turn the rings, which forces you to memorize where they are if you start moving, and these cutout enemies that extend as you turn the ring and need to find a way to fold them up while matching them together. It has its creative spurts, and the battles are fair and challenging for the most part, but that makes the moments where you have to waste coins to buy time and still feel like an idiot even more noticeable. Honestly, why would you even need to buy time when you could spend coins on something that makes half of the battles play out skippable? Toad support. This game has a mechanic where if you find toads, you build up an audience during battles, and if you want, you could pay the toads to damage enemies, give you items, heal you up, and even solve the puzzle for you. If you spend 999 coins, they solve the entire puzzle, no questions asked. The most useful they have ever been. It sounds like a nice mechanic, right? Well, believe me, you can abuse it a ton, because you will never run out of coins, because they replace XP in this game. Not only can you find coins in the world, but by timing attacks right, and also bonuses at the end of each fight, such as completing multiple waves of enemies in a single fight, taking no damage, and solving ring puzzles. This means that there are a plethora of them to find. By the time I got around to the first boss fights, I had well over 10,000 of them to spare, even after using the toads a couple times. So let's do the math real quick to show how ridiculous this is. Say you have around 10,000 coins and you either can't solve a puzzle or want to breeze through an encounter. You decide to have the entire puzzle solved for you for 999 coins. Take that away from your total and you have around 9,001 coins still. Okay, that's actually kind of risky. That's a lot of coins that you just spent. Well, let's say you hit a row of enemies perfectly and get excellent ratings, leading you to get a couple coins after a single turn, and then another excellent hitting a group with your hammer. Let's estimate it gives you around 20 coins or so. Add that to your total. A bit generous, but still shows how risky spending your coins on toads is. You beat the battle with no damage. You don't get the puzzle bonus, but depending on the battle and the results of it, you can get over 100 coins or even more in some cases back. One battle can give you over 500 coins back, even towards the end game, so let's add that to the equation. Oh, that's half the coins I spent back. Doesn't end there though, because after the battle, enemies not only give you confetti, something we'll go over in a bit, but they also give you a few more coins for the road. So, adding everything up, we got back over half of our coins we spent cheating the ring system, or even more if you do a wave battle or tough enemy battle later on. Do you see the problem here? Doesn't help that this game gives you opportunities for a shit ton of coins, arguably generously at times, so you will be stacking up coins in no time and can skip any battle that you want, negating half of what makes a battle. If XP was a thing in this game, then the system would be more valid and enjoyable because yeah, you still spend coins, but it isn't refunded back to you as a reward after a battle, meaning that you need to spend wisely and while also learning the ins and outs of the system. Here, there are no checks and boundaries, which means you can call the toads without ever feeling like you're in danger of running your bank dry to do the dirty work for you, and all you have to do in the battles is to pick a weapon and press a button. It makes what should be something used to get you out of a pinch or a frustrating puzzle you can't solve overpowered and ruins a really decent concept for battles. And you know what I blame for this? Super Mario Odyssey. because it was the first game to take a part of Mario formula that we know and love, in this case lives, and replaces it with coins for a more laid-back adventure. It works in that game though, because it's more about exploration and even rewards you with coins for doing some rather awesome platforming to find secrets. In Origami King though, it doesn't work, because it isn't just about exploring the world in this game. It's an action RPG. Battles are the backbone of the game, and making them challenging with a sense of progression and accomplishment is what it's all about. There is no sense of progression here. You don't get stronger with each battle. Hell, outside of battles forced upon you in story beats, fighting doesn't feel necessary because the rewards you get, confetti and coins, are found in bunches in the world itself. So why would you charge an enemy if you can just ignore him without worry of being underpowered throughout the game? Okay, my mistake. You will feel underpowered if you don't equip accessories and better weapons. There are a couple accessories that you can equip for more health, less damage taken as you block, and more time to solve puzzles, with silver and gold versions of each that are obviously better. I would equip these because, good lord, you could take so much damage at times, an ungodly amount even. If you have accessories equipped and spend coins for toads to heal you, you won't be in any real danger during these encounters. As for weapons, you have your basic boots, hammer, and any items that you want to use once. Everyone has a shiny version that does more damage. Both the boots have iron versions, which are used for spiky enemies, and both the hammers and boots have multiple versions, including the all-powerful rainbow version. Except they break. Seriously, I get breakable weapons can be cool and make you think about what you should use, but in a game like this where they seem to break easily, and also are just a way to end the battle faster rather than give you an edge in a vigorous situation, it's a nuisance more than anything. It's really frustrating, honestly. I want to love the ring system, but the lack of XP and the ability to rely on toads to do the work for you with no real penalty makes it obsolete, really. The most difficult thing you'll find in these battles is not letting your weapons break before you can replace them after a battle. Honestly, I feel like a system like this needs XP to not result in battles feeling pointless to get better at. The fact you can just run past enemies doesn't help this at all. It just feels like they didn't really focus on combat for this game as much as they should have.
There are good ring battles in this game, and I did find myself enjoying them when they happened. But regardless on if a battle is good or not, it all just feels like a roadblock to the story and world, the real meat of the game, that you can easily overcome without learning anything from. Because of this, I'd say the ring system is great in concept, yet only okay and disappointing in execution, which just means the overall combat is just good. You didn't expect that now, did you? There are other ways to battle in this game, and we're going to go over them as the story goes along and why they save the overall combat rating of my review from being mediocre.
Back to your regularly scheduled plot summary, we defeat the enemies and watch as that shady shy guy transforms into the main villain of the game, King Ollie, Olivia's brother, and boy, am I getting flashbacks to early 2000 punk bands just looking at him. If I'm being completely honest, outside of his sometimes edgy dialogue and appearance, I think Ollie's a pretty decent villain. At first, I wasn't a big fan of him because he doesn't really make an appearance to hinder us outside of one really big scene almost halfway through the game. But he's more of a show rather than tell type of villain, which makes him more tolerable. What I mean is that instead of monologuing us every 5 seconds and then throwing something in our way multiple times, he lets his creations and ideology attached to them do the work for him while he works on his big schemes. He hates the paper characters and toads, and by turning people into his origami minions and setting them loose on the world, you start to hate him more and more for not showing up. Like he's ordering his army to change citizens in locations that are innocent and kill the rest. That's really fucked up, and you'd think he'd be constantly on the front lines for it. Except that he isn't, because he thinks that the origami will prevail over the weakling paper without his help because he sees them as weak. This includes you. Doesn't that make you a bit angry at him when you think of it that way? It's actually pretty clever, honestly, in regards to making a villain in my books. Again, not the greatest villain, but I do like him. Anyways, he lets us know about his vision for a new origami world and his hatred for toads, and we get away with Bowser in the clown car. However, we don't get too far as streamers start to circle around the castle, separating us from Bowser and lifting the castle up onto a volcano? I'm not one to judge decisions, but considering volcanoes have a metric fuck ton of heat and the streamers and castle are made of paper, wouldn't that just destroy everything in flames? Ollie isn't too bright. We wake up in a forest and learn more about how we'll explore the land, platforming, solving environmental puzzles, and fill up holes with confetti to repair the land. This is the only use for confetti, and it's pretty satisfying to be honest. It feels nice to repair the damage done by Ollie and his goons, and it rewards with coins no matter the size of the hole. You do run out after a certain amount of uses though, but luckily, hitting your hammer on things like flowers and trees will restore it. I mentioned before that you get confetti from defeating enemies too, but honestly, it doesn't do much in the open areas of the game because you can just snatch them from trees repeatedly without having to get your hands dirty. Everywhere else though, like temples, is a different story. This area also gives you a chance to see another collectible in the game that's pretty cool. Little miniature statues with locations and enemies in the game. These can be displayed in the museum later on amongst other collectibles, and it's just a nice reward for solving other puzzles and going out of your way from the old beaten road. They also look really good too, and a jingle plays every time you find one, giving you a bit more sense of accomplishment. We continue along and learn that we can't leave the forest until we help this poor old tree stump by getting the soul seed. To do this, we take a shriveled up seed to a rejuvenating lake while getting a better feel for exploration and battles, give it back to him, and then we... Wait, what's happening?
Yes!
I didn't expect that. Wait, soul seed, like the music. Oh!
After that fun musical number, we pass by Toad Camp and get to take a whack at our last, and arguably most fun collectible, Toads. The Toads have been turned into various origami pieces and scattered throughout the world. You'll want to find them because, as I mentioned before, they become your audience in battle and help you out, adding an incentive to observing everything and making sure you've left no stone unturned. Like this bug right here. It's a toad. This dog blocking your path. Also a toad that runs a battle lab that is quite frankly useless because you don't get any stat boosts or anything, just the idea that you can get better at hitting enemies at the right time, so we might as well just stay a dog. That milk carton in your fridge? Look at that, you're lactose intolerant. Game controller? That doesn't require batteries because it's a toad. Your loving partner? Hope you like the doodling with the lights off because surprise, they're a toad too. It's such a clever mechanic that rewards you for exploring and I love it.
Okay, there is another reason that I like this mechanic. To save them, you end up hitting them with the hammer most of the time, and it is oddly satisfying to hit them for some reason. I might need to call my therapist back.
We arrive back in Toad Town and encounter massive Goombas called Paper Machos and have to stop them from destroying the town. Only we don't have to fight them in the ring system. We fight them a la Super Paper Mario style in action combat with our hammer.
I like this better than the ring system if I'm being honest.
They aren't the hardest to beat throughout the game, but they appear frequently, and also there are bosses that do this that are well made and intense. With a bit more tweaking to them, they could have just scrapped the ring system and made this how you fight enemies throughout the game. It's quick, doesn't feel like a chore, and it's something that Paper Mario fans know about and generally feel more positive about than before. Actually, wait. You can do this with enemies when you get stronger through collecting hearts to avoid battles? Then what's the point of? We reach the rubble, rescue Luigi, who is still dead set on finding the key to Peach's castle, and set out into the world to destroy the streamers to reach the castle. And if there is one thing you cannot fault Origami King for, it's the graphics and the scope of the world. My god, does this game look gorgeous. I know, not everyone likes the whole everything is paper aesthetic compared to the earlier games, but they really do it justice here. It's also gorgeous, and considering this game is a bit more open world compared to the last two and has varied locations, it just works so well. It feels like it's finally reached its actual potential, which is awe-inspiring when you look at places like Shogun Studios, the Great Sea, and even the Water Valumental Temple. It's super pretty, and I wouldn't be opposed to them continuing with this look if they continue to expand upon it properly. It helps that the world is more open too. There are areas you can actually explore freely later on, which is awesome. It feels much more free and makes the importance of looking high and low for the streamers even more grand of an adventure than if they just explored areas of the Mushroom Kingdom that we already know about. A tip of the papier-mâché hat to the studio. Unfortunately though, the pacing of the story does slow down a bit after Ollie wraps up the castle, so despite all of my praise for the world and aspects of gameplay, the story which had promised does feel like a slog filled with tutorials and constant reminders up until you destroy the first streamer after 2 bosses. Okay, I can't wait anymore. Let's talk about how you fight bosses in the game and are introduced to them because quite frankly, this is the best use of the ring system and combat in general to me. For the first 4 streamers, the road to them is generally blocked by environmental issues, whether it's earth towers like the first streamer or a river running dry. To move forward to the streamer in these situations, you need to use the power of the Valumentals, 4 magical beings that have elemental powers. The first one we encounter is the Earth Valumental, and it turns out that it has been turned into origami, so we need to fight it. These fights use the ring system, but this time it comes with a twist. The boss is at the center, and you need to find your way there to do some damage. To do so, you need to place these arrows along a path and land Mario and an attack button, or by using certain abilities like the 1000-fold arm technique after passing by an on switch to, well, turn it on. This is where the ring system truly shines, I feel like. Not only do you have to plan your route out, but also should take into account that you could pick up buffs, like double damage along the way, so it adds an extra thought process instead of just going from point A to point B. Each boss has a different strategy to them that I'll go over as we move along, because just like the story, they're memorable and fantastic and deserve the spotlight because they're such a blast. The Earth Valumental being the first boss that we encounter overall isn't hard, but it still is memorable because you need to hit every part of his body outside of its shell, and then once it's inside, flip it over with a 1000-fold arm technique and bash away at it. The motion controls for this stuff are just top notch because it's a mini workout for your arms, and also if you're into it, you just look like... After you defeat it, it disappears and leaves behind a bibliofold, a book that Olivia reads to transform into one of the Velumentals and use their power. This is cool because it not only makes Olivia more useful, but also it adds to exploration, progression, and also strategy in battles later on, especially for the Velumentals in a very rock, paper, scissors-like strategy. Plus, the transformations are so cool, it's like I'm watching Power Rangers. Paper Rangers? Mighty Morphin Paper Rangers? We travel back to the lighthouse and use the Velumental power to lower it so we can enter and make our way up, only to be continuously bombarded by colored pencils? That's really weird, but even weirder, they're pretty deadly. Wonder what this is about. We find out though once we go to destroy the streamer and are halted by a member of Ollie's Legion of Stationery, colored pencils, whose dialogue is colored by each letter cleverly enough.
A lot of you guys are really gonna kill me for this, but I like the idea of these guys from the start, and seeing them in action now, I absolutely adore them.
Yeah, if you told someone that bosses in a Mario game of any kind were craft tools, they'd probably call the police for thinking you're under the influence, but surprisingly, these are not only pretty great boss fights, but they're hilarious as well. Each one has a very overblown and dramatic personality that makes them stand out even more, and I absolutely love it. Colored Pencils is like a hipster artist, especially after you defeat him, and he remarks that Mario was better as a platformer. That caught me off guard and got a good laugh out of me. Returning to the actual boss fight though, these play out like the Velumental fights. You need to make your way to the boss and wail on them. Oh yeah, and if you use toads, they aren't overpowered like regular fights. They give you items and health, sure, but they don't switch the rings around. They just highlight the path that you're currently going to be heading down, leaving you to strategize and do the fighting. Yes! That is exactly how they should play out. Thank God! Colored Pencils and later boss fights for that matter bring a twist with them. They'll lay out traps or interfere with how you plan your movement with special attacks. In this case, you need to get to Colored Pencils without getting hit by any of his missiles and clobber him, and also close his lid so his missiles do self-damage to him with the 1000-fold arm technique, making the move even more useful. After you get them down to the last legs, they essentially have a big final charged up move that'll do so much damage if you don't stop them, and this usually involves, you guessed it, using the 1000-fold arm technique to stop the attack and finish them off. These Legion of Stationery boss fights have no right to be this clever and this good, but they absolutely are. They utilize everything that combat entails, from special moves to being good at the ring system, to bring a fun and challenging fight unique to them and their moveset, and Colored Pencils is no exception. The music is also a bop and a half too, so that's a plus. After we bash on the streamer, we destroy it, get an upgrade to how much confetti we can hold, and also unlock the path to the next streamer. With all those tutorials behind us and the story slowing down because of it, it immediately picks up as we head to Autumn Mountain and meet up with a new companion, Bobby the Bob-omb, and I fucking love him. It's funny because Intelligent Systems said they can't do anything major to change existing characters or create new ones, which led a lot of people, including me, to be reasonably frustrated, because characters are a big part of why the series is so memorable and loved. Look at Count Bleck and almost every character in Thousand Year Door for examples on why the games are so loved. But honestly, the characters that they had in this game, while they are essentially characters and species that already exist, such as Kamek, are pretty well crafted, especially Bobby. I love this little dude. When we meet him, he tries to do the classic anime character thing where they try to act badass and not care about people's business, but the whole charade drops and he adorably tags along. Bobby is a Bob-omb that is weirdly missing a fuse and has amnesia, not remembering anything about what he was doing. He also introduces how companions sometimes enter battles as well. It is disappointing that they sometimes successfully attack at random, but it's a compromise, I guess. We reach Autumn Mountain and find out that the river has run dry, and unfortunately, we need to travel down it to reach Shogun Studios and the next streamer. We decide that to fix it, we need to go and find the water Velumental to fill it up. Not before we lose Bobby like 5 different times though, because Bobby. Once inside the water Velumental temple, we solve water puzzles to open the dragon's mouth and enter a surprisingly gorgeous room where we fight the water Velumental. And man, did I have trouble with this and the next Legion of Stationery boss. For some reason, these two bosses, especially the water Velumental, gave me so much trouble at first. It took me like 2 or 3 tries to beat it. I mentioned before that the bosses mess with the battlefield in different ways that you need to work around. In the case of the water Velumental, it summons water tornadoes that'll wipe away any button or item in its path, so if your route involves passing by them, it'll be cut short and you waste a turn. What's even more troubling is that it is constantly charging up a powerful wave attack that you need to dodge by using the Earth Velumental's power, and then hit it with all you got while it's down the next turn. The only thing is that the first wave attack may have been dodged, but the more you get into the fight, the more water tornadoes appear to mess you up, and not only that, the attacks get much, much stronger. Even if you get hit by the first wave and survive it, you may not down the line for like say the third or fourth wave because they will take you out in one hit if you're not careful, even with accessories equipped. This boss fight was so frustrating at first, but quite frankly, I don't hate it because it meant I have to really think more about my route and pay attention to my surroundings. A detail that is imperative if you want to come out of boss fights unscathed. You may have protected the on button, but what about the Earth Valumental action button? That could still be in danger. Once I got past those frustrations and relied on the toads for health to save items so I don't waste actions, the battle ended much quicker, and it was so satisfying to get the Water Valumental Bibliofold. That is how feeling accomplished after a battle and being rewarded with coins should feel like. After filling up the river and going down in the rather fun minigame of river rapid traversing, we arrive at the Shogun Studios and start to find a way into the tower where the streamer lies. Very, very slowly. The game is backtracking, sure, but usually those areas have a lot more exploration on the side involved, and finding big secrets left and right by going off your main course. There's no going off the main course here. You go everywhere in the studio and do what are essentially summed up as fetch quests. You try to find a ball for these dry bones so that way you can get a bone to get the chain chomp to leave you alone, but to get the ball, you need to find the manager of the Ninja Star building who's in a secret employee room and so on and so forth. Mario doesn't move as fast compared to his other games since his moveset for exploration is limited to walking because... well, I mean, if he tried to forward roll, he'd crumple himself up in a ball and die. It's pretty self-explanatory. But this leads to traversing this area and being ambushed by ninja enemies very slowly and can be a bit numbing at times. I will say this though, the activities in between here are really fun. The Ninja Star Challenge is great, and the Ninja Training Studio is just more Olivia goofiness mixed with decent search puzzles. But for these few minutes of adrenaline and fun, the back and forth in the studio can slow things down at first. Also, Luigi shows up and finds a key, but not Peach's castle key, leading him to swear he will find it and hurry on his way. This is a running gag throughout and it never gets old because it just fits Luigi so well. Our progress is halted to the tower because of all the enemies in the way, which leads to a pretty cute reference to Metroid and Donkey Kong as we sneak in with a Goomba mask. Once inside though, we are greeted to a theater of toads all tied up to their chairs as a captive audience, waiting for us to continue the show. However, there's a twist. We're also the actors of said shows as well. It starts out with a Western shootout, which got a good laugh from me, and then... wait. No!
This is a side story, but with Koopas. Look at him trying to snap! Okay. Woo! Oh, I did not expect that. Is that what else is there? Please tell me that. Oh, have I ever mentioned that this game is hysterical?
This game just has so much comedic value in not just the enemies, but overall. The timing of the lines, the pop cultural references, the slapstick and physical comedy. It never once feels stupid, but rather comedically timed perfectly and fits the world. It's a nice breather in between the serious story and reminds you that Mario and Luigi isn't the only RPG series that can be goofy. This stuff especially kills me. I can't look at this without wanting to still break down in hysterics. Well, the funny times don't last long though, because once we control the stage, we run into our next foe, the theatrically eccentric Rubber Band Man. And just a reminder, I had trouble with this boss at first too. He shoots rubber bands at you that if you don't block, will restrain you and leave you open to more attacks. He also messes with the board by shooting rubber bands to knock off certain pieces, including the arrows that you need to traverse. You aren't completely helpless though, as the rubber bands can be used to move up and down the boards themselves. Moving them up and down changes their direction to the opposite one. You'll want to do this though because part of this boss's strategy is that for every rubber band that is taken off of him and isn't dealt with, he restores his health back, meaning regular attacks aren't gonna fly. To damage him, you have to rip his rubber bands off with special attacks and use the rubber bands on the board if you can so that way he can't restore his health. After a while, he becomes one big rubber band that you need to fling with your arms or he will do massive damage to you. Again, struggle with this one for a bit and I honestly don't know why. These are the only two bosses that I struggled with for that matter, but it makes you continuously think outside of the box and still is memorable, especially his final monologue. That was perfect. We destroy the streamer and before we continue on though, we get a fireworks show in honor of us and then while the fireworks go off, Bobby gets his memory back. Oh, cause the fireworks go off and he's a bomb and... yeah. That's fucked up. We find our way to Scorching Sandpaper Desert and all of a sudden, Ollie decides to take us seriously and flattens Olivia under a boulder to stop her from helping us and our path is now blocked with Olivia on the cusp of being flattened. However, Bobby has an idea that involves going out to sea to the Princess Peach where he last was before he got amnesia. Yeah. Remember that ship? Quite the throwback. But this does lead to what is possibly the most talked about sequence in the entire game, and damn, does it take the story from the great quality it already was and ramp that shit up to 11.
I know I gave a huge spoiler warning at the beginning of the video, but this next part is fucking huge. Here's a timestamp from when my commentary on it ends, but be warned, you may have already guessed what it is. And if you haven't, this is your final warning to not be spoiled on anything in the game, because this next event changes everything. I'll wait. Okay. Let's continue.
You go back to Toad Town and manage to get a ship out to sea, and let me just say, I adore this so much. The scope of the ocean, the epic music just begging for you to explore the watery depths. It's such a gorgeous sight to see, and we also get a look at a streamer we'll potentially get to after we save Olivia and finish at the desert. Everything is smooth sailing, until we get to the Princess Peach. We arrive and there are holes everywhere, dead silence aboard what is usually a bright and cheery vessel. And as we look around to the hurrying words of Bobby, we rescue Toads that are horrified and mention a monster. It's such a creepy tone compared to the rest of the game, which, while it has had its disturbing moments, was nothing like this. We get snippets of what the Toads may have seen as a tentacle stalks us in the background, and we arrive on the floor Bobby needs us to be on, only to be greeted with ink everywhere. It looks like a black-colored bloodbath. If you know Mario lore and have seen the tentacle, you could probably tell where this is going, but man, is it unsettling. It shows the scope of Ollie's power. Not only has it reached the land, but the sea and possible islands as well. He won't stop at anything to accomplish his goal no matter what he needs to do. We get to the vault Bobby has his item in, and just as we get ready to open it, it's snatched away and we have to chase it to the front of the ship where we have a boss fight with a giant blooper. I'm so happy they decided to make this action combat instead of the ring system. It's such a great fight. Dodging shockwaves, trekking through ink at a slower pace, and risking being caught up in an attack, hitting the blooper on the tentacles. It's all so satisfying. We defeat it, rescue the Toads who were supposedly eaten by it, leave the Princess Peach to ready ship to find other Toads that escaped, and head back to where Olivia is. It's at this point that Bobby goes over his backstory finally, reveals what he has, holds the key, and... Wait. Hold on. No, they wouldn't do that. Oh my fucking god, Bobby. Bobby, wait!
Yep, you saw that right. Bobby sacrifices himself to save Olivia. And man, does it fucking hurt.
Bobby reveals his backstory is that he and fellow Bob-omb friends were enjoying the cruise when the blooper attacked. Wanting to protect everyone, they threw themselves at the blooper with the short lifespan Bob-ombs have and blew up to try and protect the ship. Bobby was going to as well until he was knocked unconscious and drifted out to sea, losing his fuse in the process and preventing himself from blowing up, but also giving a chance at a longer life. He awakens in Toad Town and sets out to remember everything, and that's where we met him. The item that was aboard the ship he knew would save Olivia was a spare fuse from his friend. Before he sacrifices himself, he thanks Mario one last time and says that he's glad that they met, because he likes the new memories he made with Olivia and Mario better than the old ones, blowing up to destroy the rock as Mario tries to stop him. This scene, I don't even know what to say about it. It's the classic heroic sacrifice, sure, but it's so much deeper, honestly. Usually those happen towards the end of the story, but it happens the next big story piece after we meet Bobby. And it's effective, because despite our short time with this little guy, he was memorable. The way he tried to be all cool, his sarcasm, his goofiness, he was so memorable. And yet he was a Bob-omb, not an original character, something we thought would never happen. Despite the short time we had with him, we felt the sacrifice because of all the time and memories we spent with him, especially at Shogun Studios. Another thing about this scene is the situation itself. Bobby knows that Bob-ombs have a short lifespan, and yet he's the exception because he doesn't have a fuse. It's not like Bowser's minions aren't gone for a long time. We've encountered them throughout the world, so surely we could stumble upon a Bob-omb to help us. But that doesn't matter to Bobby. He knows how dire the situation is and knows what must be done, even if it means his own life. He's willing to sacrifice his chance at a longer life with friends he has better memories with by going back to the sad and almost sacrificial short lifespan of his fellow companions so they can live on and save the world. That's fucking deep. What's even more emotional about this whole scene is the characterization of Olivia and, more importantly, Mario. Olivia turns out okay, and of course questions where Bobby was, finally piecing everything together and running off in denial and tears. As much as it may seem silly to hear a character say, "I'm too sad to move," it makes sense. A friend died saving her, and we learn she feels almost useless even more now. She's so riddled with guilt and sadness that she really is too sad to move. The little sassy girl that we love is given more characterization and depth as we see how she really feels deep down.
As for Mario and his relationship with Olivia, so much goes on with this. We all know Mario really loves his loved ones and rarely gets sad. I mean, when do we not see a smile on this guy's face outside of his determination to ever save his friends? Well, we do here.
Bobby is technically Bowser's minion, his sworn enemy. You'd think Mario wouldn't be too affected by this death, right? Well, as soon as Bobby goes to explode, Mario immediately panics and tries to stop Bobby, probably wanting there to be another way to save Olivia. And later on this goes even further, because as we go to get up to leave Olivia alone, Mario seems like he is sad himself and crying. Think about it. The happiest video game character in the world is upset over the loss of a friend who is a minion of his rival nonetheless. It shows that Mario really can be friends with anyone, and that to him, there's good in everyone if they really reach for it. Why else would he be affected by Bobby's death? Finally, the singular moment really strengthens Olivia and Mario's resolve even more, and it is heartwarming. As we go to adventure alone, the ghost of Bobby talks to us and tells us we can't leave Olivia sad like that, or else his sacrifice is in vain, telling us that we are the Big M, and we know how to cheer her up. And of course we do, with the Goomba head that we use to sneak into the tower that Olivia can't get enough of, the silly walk and all. Olivia feels better after this, and with heavy but more determined hearts, they set off to the desert once more, leaving behind Bobby. This scene alone shows how the storytelling isn't completely lost, that through all the jokes, there are dark and emotional moments throughout the story. And in case you couldn't tell by now, I love the story of this game so much. It knows just how to tug at your heartstrings, when to let the world do the talking instead of dialogue, and has plenty of memorable moments throughout along with pretty great characters. And to think, we get to experience this all thanks to the little Bob-omb that could. Thanks, Bobby. After that emotional scene, we get to explore the desert in this boot car, and it seems the desert is dark and cold, with only the bright lights of possible civilization illuminating the way. This place is Shroom City, and man does the music absolutely slap. Have I mentioned good music is a staple in this game? Because it very much is and adds to the world, which is already superb. However, we aren't here for all fun and games. We're here to find a toad who studies ancient language, which we will need to get into the temple where the next streamer is buried under. After searching his room and gathering some sun incense, we find him outside of the city, observing an altar, and after getting into a scuffle with another fun boss that involves ramming our car into it, we head back to the city to read the runes. You can probably imagine where this is going. Another look at a Velumental is inbound. However, we can't go yet because we need to find the key to the room with the rest of the mural, and that means, you guessed it, Luigi Antics. Well, that's weird. I don't remember genies being this handsome. Guess Disney should have taken some notes from Nintendo. We get the key, learn that we have to perform a ritual to open the temple, and then we... You know, I should have known Olivia was a wonderful singer. She did reference Nirvana earlier, and that's some high respect right there. If I'm being completely honest about the Fire Velumental and its temple, it feels wicked easy compared to the last bosses. The temple itself is pretty simple. You just do some platforming over fire and get to the boss. The boss itself lacks so much challenge. It basically has the same mechanic as Rubber Band. It shoots itself in the form of fiery feathers onto the battlefield. The exception is that you can't use your thousand-fold arm to bash it and pluck its feathers unless it's the final hit. Otherwise, it restores everything. The feathers also damage you if you run into them along the way, obviously. Well, this won't be difficult because you can drown out the feathers with the Water Velumental and punch it in the beak repeatedly until the end of the fight. Again, the boss fight is not really difficult. In fact, it's a bit insultingly easy compared to what we went through, but the creativity is there and the setting is nice. Before we progress any further though, I do want to talk about Professor Toad, who is another great character. He's all educated, and even when he's angry, it sounds like he's trying to be proper about it. He's with us on our journey to find any clues about an ancient being called Captain Toad. I don't think you need to look very far, Professor. He's been on the Wii U and Switch for a couple years now. Back to the story, we find jewels for each of these Toad Towers and light them up, leading the way to the location of the streamer where we bring up the Temple of the Ancient Ones. Ancient Ones, huh? Whoa, I'm not that scared. The worst we've seen was a giant blooper, and this is supposed to be a civilization of toads. It can't be that bad.
Jesus, fuck!
Yeah, okay. So it turns out the Toad's faces are missing in this location and have turned into these zombies, and are also strung up in spider webs. I think I'd like to go back to the Toads just being a captive audience to a funny West Side Story parody, please. There is an explanation for this, though. A disco-loving hole punch who hates anything that sounds like Madonna or anime.
Ah, yes. Every boomer in the world in one craft item.
It's hysterical how these dark moments have been balanced out by the out-there craziness that these tools, literal tools, are doing this. I think I'm gonna have to keep an eye on my stuff from now on, guys. The hole punch fight is just as wild as he is. He never stops dancing, and he'll create holes in the board so you have to work around them. This includes the on button, but all of it can be restored if you hit the lid. Not only does it do damage to him, but it restores holes on the board. And after a certain while, he'll hole punch your face, which takes a bit of your health as well. Hitting the lid does the same thing, and you can pick up your face to restore your health back. After a while, he charges up his power attack, which you need to dodge with the Earth Elemental and rip him apart with your thousandfold arms, ending the fight. Like the Fire Elemental, this fight is much easier compared to the last ones, but unlike our fiery friend, he still provides a little bit of a challenge with having a singular spot to lock on for damage, and also trying to keep an eye out for your face when you get hole punched. After the fight, all of Hole Puncher's damage is undone, including putting the actual sun in a disco ball so his party never stops, and we destroy our third streamer on the way out. At this point, we're more than halfway through the game. However, we aren't done here yet. We go back to the altar where the sun incense was, and it opens up finally, leading us down to the famous Captain Toad who froze himself. After a small conversation with our new friend, he heads to Toad Town to find a submarine, and we follow as well since our next streamer is out at sea. Turns out, the submarine is in the museum, and after some negotiating, we head out to sea. Captain Toad in tow with the help of his sea chart so that way we don't get lost in the fog. We head to Skull Island to deal with said fog, and learn about finding Diamond Island to get to Paradise. Considering that this is after we learn the streamer is stuck underwater in multiple places, you can imagine that this is a story beat that we need to follow. This leads us out to solve the puzzle, but also taking some time to explore all of the islands that we can while we're at it. With the fog now gone, sea exploration has become massive, and again, I absolutely adore it. Plus, Captain Toad keeps track of each island we discover, so quite frankly, you'll never feel lost. I just love the feeling of exploring the ocean at your own pace. Not only will you find islands that are part of the story and hold the key to advancing, but you can snag a bunch of goodies on land and underwater along the way. It's such a rewarding experience that never got old for me. We do find the Diamond Key on Mushroom Island after looking for clues around 4 other islands in the care of Luigi. More importantly, we get the origin stories of Olivia and Ollie. It turns out that this origami craftsman is responsible for their creation. Being in charge of the origami for the festival, he wanted to do something special, and so he used a technique called the Fold of Life to create Ollie, who turned against him and trapped him within the walls, using the same technique to create Olivia as part of his new conquest of the origami world. It's basically the idea of having too much power to create and also a god complex, and it's handled so well because not only was this toad given the power of creation, but that creation went on to create its own creations for evil. It's just a reminder of how too much power in mortal hands is a big mistake. Well, I mean, Jurassic Park taught it in a more badass way with dinosaurs, but, you know, beware the folded paper, it'll get ya. We find Diamond Island and have to go through 3 trials, all stuck behind some Vellumental power puzzles with these panels that access any Vellumental power at our whim. We can't access one though, considering we need to freeze the water, which conveniently leads us to our final one, the Ice Vellumental. To get to our frozen friend, we have to hammer bash the wall in the direction we want to glide in. It's a simple puzzle, and honestly, sliding through these enemies is satisfying as all hell. The boss itself is also satisfying, a big old polar bear that freezes itself and we fall out the ice to do some damage. Be careful of these ice patches though, or you'll go slipping all over the place. After a while, they do create an ice maze that you have a few seconds to memorize, and then they destroy the ice to create a ton of slippery ice patches that you have to navigate. It's a decent fight, and the ice maze continues to pull out our muscle memory just like the other ring puzzles do, which is always a treat. But with that though, it's time to use our new power to reach any temples that we couldn't before. Each one has a different trial. Power, which is centered around your attacks, Wisdom, which has you answering questions, and Courage, which has you waiting for something to fall until the right moment, proving how brave you are, and I totally didn't have anxiety during this part. Nope, not a bit. Nuh-uh, I'm no pussy. These trials are a good test of Mario's character for the final legs ahead, except for the goddamn trial of power, which I swear to God did not have to be such a pain in the ass because no matter how many times I got an excellent on this part, it wasn't worth it, and it was getting so goddamn frustrated because you're better off just doing great attacks, and I couldn't handle it, and finally paid to make it easier. This is the one time that I ever made something easy during this game. Seriously, fuck this fucking trial! Sorry, I'm not too proud of that trial. Anyway, with all the trials completed, we make our way out to the sea tower where we can not only get entry, but also see the next streamer up at the top. We go through some puzzles related to the Vellumentals and their temples and go up to see the next big baddie, a New York gangster thing of tape. I read all of his lines out loud while playing, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. And you, Origami Kid, be a good girl and run back to Ollie. It's past your Betty Bye time, capiche? You got a grudge with things that rap over other things? You think I'm some kind of joke, eh? I got a feeling this is gonna be a fun one. Forget about it. The battle starts off with the board being barren, and of course, being a gangster, it's all Tape's doing because he stowed away all of the parts of the board in a chest. Open the chest up on the way to whooping his ass by hammering the base, and you've basically got the fight. Well, until he changes gears when he loses his base and starts to tape up the board, that is. It costs him small bits of his health, but the power of the fire elemental will do the trick. However, you gotta be extra careful, because if two parts of the board are taped together, you essentially move both of them and you can't work around it. This is super punishing because it can make the battle last a little longer than usual, since sometimes there is no way you're going to get the on switch and the fire elemental in one go, so you're better off biding your time and strategizing for the next move. I'm not complaining though, it's yet another wild time with a boss, and quite frankly, the more time I get to spend listening to this tape yap his cannoli hole, the better. I love him. I can make the joke I'm Italian, fuck you. We whoop his ass for Ollie to see what we did to his boy and destroy the streamer. The last one already in sight, and after solving each Vellumental puzzle one last time, we approach it and the endgame.
And we reach the peace and salvation that those statues were talking about. That's right. You guys know where I'm going with this. I'm talking about Shangri Spa, baby! Best spa in the fucking world! What? You guys didn't expect to go to Shangri Spa? Come on, what if the salvation lies in the clouds? Don't be stupid.
It's not all sunshine and rainbows though, because it turns out the last streamer is here in Bowser's crashed ship, and all of his minions have to pay off debt because it crashed into the dining hall. We also meet our last companion, the well-known Kamek. Kamek is pretty great. He's such a know-it-all and takes pride in being loyal to Bowser the longest, but also is always surprised when Mario listens to him because he's just so used to being ignored. It's equal parts cute and sadly relatable. Seriously, why is this game coming for my life? We try to enter the ship, but an Origami Sumo Bro blocks the way and we have to get him down from his cloud. Enter Bowser Jr., who rushes in to save his dad. Only to be massacred by the last Legion of Stationary member, Scissors. I mentioned this game was dark, right? Luckily, each of the spas that we can visit has the chance to restore him back to normal, so we can use his clown car, and after visiting them, including a rather long and almost feels like padding adventure to the Jungle Spa, which has an admittedly intense chase sequence with Paper Macho Chain Chomp, we restore him. Almost. His dumbass decided to stay underwater for too long, and now he has no color.
This is why Ludwig is the best Koopa Kid!
Luckily for us, the grand prize for getting stamps at each spa is a trip to the exclusive Rainbow Spa. Hooray! But the pipe is blocked, and we have to unblock it for Kamek Jr. by taking the dangerous way around. Damn it! But we did it, and the Rainbow Spa is right there. Hooray! But we have to take part in a game show first. Fuck! Wait a second, a game show? That's right, to get to the Rainbow Spa, we have to beat the popular game show, Shy Guys Finished Last. You said it, buddy. Mini-games and their point values are chosen at random, and we have to get 100 points to pass. The games include finding all of the ninjas on the board, seeing who got what place in racing, math, and fuck no, I'm not solving a puzzle, you can't make me. Afterwards, you're given access to the spa, but you can take part in one last game that'll either give you a great prize or insta-death. And considering the last save point was before the game show and you'd have to do it all over again, I decided to, wait, fuck, did I press the wrong button? I didn't script this, I actually pressed the wrong button. Wait, no, I'm done! Give me an Are You Sure moment! No! Fuck! Shit! God, I have to get Olivia to the right button or I get shot out of a cannon. Fuck. Okay, I might actually die here, guys. I'm not good with memory questions. What's the question? Wait, are you serious? Phew! That wasn't that bad. Let's just dunk this kid in some gay pride spa and get out of here. After that, we get to fight the Sumo Bro in a boss battle? Yeah. It turns out this is the boss battle. Actually, there are 2 more boss battles that aren't Vellumental or stationary based, but all in due time. Honestly, it's incredibly easy. I don't know why they made this a boss fight. It could have just been a regular encounter. There's no need for it. It's a forgettable fight. We do get to access the ship though, and after a speech from Kamek rallying Bowser's army to arms to reclaim what is theirs, we enter. This place is actually pretty straightforward. The minions and Origami minions clash in a pretty epic fight to show that they are the best, and we go to Kamek's room to find the key to get to the throne room. And once again, Luigi is here somehow. Seriously, how do you get around to these places, man? Are you like a wizard or some shit? We get the key and start to head back, but Olivia and Kamek go missing, and after fighting these creepy cutout soldiers, yeah, I wonder why they're around, we find out why Olivia goes missing, the Handaconda. This boss fight was pretty forgettable at first because you just try to whack it a bunch of times to free Olivia, but it turns out to be alright in the end because now we have to use the 1000-fold arm technique to challenge it to rock, paper, scissors. If you win, you get to bash it in. If you lose, it damages you, and also the hand gets bigger to do what I assume is more damage. I wouldn't know though because the worst I did is tie with this guy at first because I figured out that while you're moving the rings, it looks like it hints at what move it's going to do next so you can prepare yourself. So I'm basically the champ of this game. Look out Olympics, I'm coming for you. We make it to the second floor and are met with a grisly sight of cut up pieces of everyone everywhere. That's a bit gruesome, I'm not gonna lie. Enter the throne room though, and we see the streamer and are met with Scissors, who says we have one challenge left before we get to fight it. A paper macho buzzy beetle made up of everyone's faces, including Kamek, which is why I can cast magic. That is fucked up. For a boss with such a creepy tone, I mean for God's sake it's made up of still alive and cut up people, this is easily the most disappointing boss fight. You peel off Kamek to take away the magic casting ability and then fight it like a regular paper macho. I was hoping for a bit more of this. It really sucks because these last 3 boss fights aren't that great. The best one is Handaconda, and it's only because of the rock, paper, scissors game. What does that mean for Scissors himself? Nothing actually, because he's my favorite boss fight of the entire game. He acts like an anime swordsman, you know, honorable and taunting and thinking he's the best kind of type, and at the beginning of the fight sheaves himself to give us a fair chance, basically downplaying us like I mentioned Ollie did up until Sandpaper Valley. The fight plays out normally here. You just can't damage the sheaf or else it breaks and all bets are off. He does get more antsy and tries to trip you up by switching positions even while you're picking a move later on, but as long as you watch your step you'll be fine. Whether you break the sheaf or get halfway through the fight, he sees you as a formidable foe and decides to take you seriously and cut up pieces on the board. That's it, you might say? Yeah, it is. Because his attack can kill you in one fucking hit with a screen that's reminiscent of Persona 5's all-out attack. Oh, and you can't block it either, but you can try to jump over it. You just gotta time it right or it's game over. He also tends to throw off your timing, so if you fall for it, you have a split second to get it right or you're fucked. Can't do jump attacks either or you die, but I feel like that's self-explanatory. You can stop this daring thing by freezing him with the Ice Elemental's power, but only if you didn't break his sheath. Otherwise, you're in for a long fight. You rip him apart Mortal Kombat style at the end to finish the fight, and man, was this intense. I love this fight so much. It's simple, but with the big cost of one mess up and you'd have to do it all over again. You have no idea how many times I was holding my breath throughout the fight during his final cut attack, hoping that I'd make it. I was standing the entire time and didn't blink once. I was so into this fight. Bravo, Scissors. You were a worthy adversary till the end. I salute you. But finally, it's time to go to the castle and finish this, with the help of Bowser and his minions who want revenge on Ollie for what he's done. We set sail on another ship, and after a badass fight to the finish with Ollie's paper plane armada, we end up crashing into a volcano and have to race to the top. Kamek and Bowser Jr. risking their lives to hold off a mob of origami Goombas so we can finish the job. This is such a cool moment because it shows off exactly what I believe Mario's ideology is. Anyone has the potential to be good, and even though they'll go back to fighting Mario after this all ends, the friendship and time spent together was enough for them to work together. We get to the castle and realize that we don't have the key to get in. Oh hey, but here comes Luigi. I think he finally has the... Wait, he doesn't have the key? Shit, what are we gonna do now? Okay, maybe we could try sneaking in or... Wait. Luigi, what's that in your engine? Oh, Luigi, you lovable scamp. You're not the brightest, but you make up for it in rugged and handsome charm. We meet up with Ollie, who transforms Castle Oblivion into Land of Depart, turns Peach's castle into his own origami castle, and we have to traverse through to get to him. We jump, climb, and breeze through this last massive wave battle. Seriously, I could give less of a shit about forced regular battles at this point, to get to him to face one last for reals challenge, his doggo Stapler, who is the reason Bowser is stuck like he is. Someone let the Can You Pet the Dog Twitter know about this fight because you can't pet the Stapler, but you sure can't beat it with a hammer. This boss fight is simple. He loads up staples, and depending on if you jump on him or hammer him, he drops a certain amount. The point is to waste his staples before he shoots a bunch at you for his final attack, and then go in for a ton of damage during his reload phase. The only major thing that changes is that his staples become golden by the end and do more damage. If you block his attacks, you won't become stuck by his staples at any point, so I didn't really have too much trouble with this fight. It's still a fun boss fight considering Stapler can do a massive amount of damage, but it is a shame to go from the intensity and sheer fun of Scissors and Tape respectively to this. We defeat Stapler and Bowser is finally free, meaning that our fight with Ollie is finally ahead. Not before one last moment with Olivia though, who fears that she will not be able to stop him and that maybe she isn't enough. This brings in a pretty heartwarming moment from tough guy Bowser. Seriously, Paper Mario Bowser is best Bowser, and with Olivia's spirits lifted up once again, it's time. We enter the room and see that Ollie has turned Peach into an origami crane amongst a bunch of others. The 1,000-fold crane technique. He was working on these cranes the whole time, so that way he can be granted his wish of a perfect origami world, now missing just one more crane. We also learn about his hate for the Toads and why he's doing this, and that's because the Toad craftsman scribbled on him.
Wait, what? So you mean to tell me that we went through all that shit, lost a good friend, and nearly died because, again, putting paper on top of a fucking volcano was a good idea to you, all because you got autographed by a Toad who was proud of his work? I should be laughing because that's a funny twist, but I'm more pissed than anything. Fuck you, Ollie, you fucking My Origami Romance looking ass.
If you've seen one Toad, you've seen them all. They're all the same to me.
What? Did Ollie just bring up racism?
And before you think about it too much, here we are at the final boss fight. The first phase includes Ollie transforming into something, though I can't imagine what it's gonna be. Are you serious? Yeah, it turns out Ollie can turn into the Vellumentals as well, and I could see this coming a mile away given Olivia, but like, are you serious? We are at the final boss, the grand finale, and already you're gonna make the first phase about the Vellumentals and nothing else? You couldn't make the Vellumentals like a big grand move for Ollie between turns as the fight went on, you're just gonna make it about these four? It's super easy too, because we already know how to stop each one, because again, weaknesses Pokemon style, so we went down in 2 fucking turns for me. Didn't even see the ice or water Vellumental because it was so easy. That is bullshit. Yeah, I'll just walk through the fucking fire to finish you off. I don't give a shit anymore. Fucking burn it to the ground for all I care. Fucking. There better be something good after this. Okay, so I'm guessing it's gonna be a wrestling match, but no one is big enough. How are we... Wait, what is happening? Oh, shit. Woo. Woo, fuck.
Okay, I have to admit, that's pretty awesome.
So Bowser's turned into Origami to fight Ollie, and we have to help him out by using these magic circles to pound the ground so Bowser has the advantage. I like this part of the fight way more than I should have, because it's just so awesome to see a massive Origami Bowser kick someone's ass. Would it have been great to control Bowser? Yeah, it would have, but I'll admit slamming my controller and getting a workout in the name of kick-ass was pretty fun as well. That part of the fight ends, and when we think it's all over, Ollie comes up and plans to finish this once and for all. But luckily for us, we have one last trick up our sleeve, and damn it, Ollie! So we had a massive magic circle, and Ollie decides to fuck it up and then proceeds to tell us, yeah, by the way, guys, you have 30 seconds before my toxic gas kills you anyway, so fuck you, like the asshole that he is. Luckily for us, the puzzle isn't really that hard. It is intense though, I'll give it that. Every few seconds, Ollie will come in to do a massive attack, and you have to press A at the right time to dodge it. There's no Toads to help you here, so if you take damage, you're not getting that health back. It's got the atmosphere, but joke's on him though, because I solved this wait, why isn't it working? Fuck, do these bottom pieces not move? I thought they did! Shit, I have 10 seconds left. I gotta spin these around. This goes here, and maybe here. No, fuck!
Oh god, why did I not notice that? Now I gotta start the fight all over again. Wait, hold on a second. You could start from the phase? Shit, okay. I don't know why they give you the option to start from the beginning of the fight again. Who wouldn't want to start from the face? Fuck you.
After one last fallout with the boy, we defeat Ollie once and for all, and man, I kind of expected more from this final fight. All the Vellumentals and Legion of Stationary members have memorable boss fights, and I get that this is supposed to be a culmination of all of our skills, but it still is a tad bit disappointing. I'm mainly looking at the first phase. That was pathetic. The other 2 phases were alright and the energy was there, just could have been a bit more to spice it up. It's not the worst final fight in the series, it's just disappointing. With Ollie on his deathbed, he realizes the error of his ways and has Olivia read what the Toad wrote on him. It turns out that the Toad was just hoping Ollie would be a fair and loving king, and wrote the sweet message as a reminder for him whenever he may need it, continuing to show how hasty Ollie was and making him regret what he put everyone through even more. As he dies, he asks Olivia to use his body as the final crane, passing his chance at a wish onto her. For all the shit Ollie did, this was pretty nice to see between brother and sister. With the help of the Toad craftsman, Olivia makes the final crane, and with one last look around the room, she makes her wish. To undo all of the origami that her brother made. And if you've been paying attention to the story at this point, you'll know that includes her. This got me just as bad as Bobby did. She didn't make a grand stand of things, she wasn't emotional like we know her to be. It wasn't an overly dramatic heroic sacrifice. She just looks at everyone, especially Mario, and without any goodbyes, she knows what she has to do and does it. This felt so down to earth, and I loved it because, again, it shows heroic sacrifices don't always need to be drawn out or over the top. If you're close to the character, it could still hit home. And man, does this one hit home. For all the shit people give Olivia, I can't stress enough how much I adore this little origami girl. Some of the best and cutest moments were of her, and she doesn't even say goodbye to Mario. It's like she knows that if she says anything, it'll be emotional and she would pass on the chance to set things right. There's no loopholes around it. She wants Mario to be happy just like Bobby wanted her to be happy, bringing the sacrifice for the greater good full circle. Very, very well done. As the wish is granted, the origami is undone and everything goes back to normal, including Peach, and the heroes look skyward when asked where Olivia is, realizing, if they haven't already, what they lost. The game then goes on to show the Origami Festival in full swing. No surprise bullshit thing with Bowser as the final boss, no other twists and turns, just everyone finally getting a happy ending at the Origami Festival, which does include Bowser as well. With one final look at the finished project of the Toad Craftsman and a beautiful ceremony of sending off origami lanterns, Mario remembers his time with Olivia and sets home with Luigi, passing by all the locations he visited in a beautiful orchestra as the credits roll, ending our time with Paper Mario, the Origami King.
I'm not going to waste your time with dramatic pauses or ask you if the game is good or not with nods to the material. It's review time, and I think you guys deserve to know the truth about this controversial game. So to start it off, no, the Origami King is not the true return to form that Paper Mario fans were expecting. But you know what? I still enjoyed this game and had fun pretty much every step of the way. This is a good Paper Mario game in its own rights.
Yes, the ring system outside of the boss battles is extremely flawed and makes battles not worth much in the grand scheme of things. Yes, I expected a little more from the final boss. And yes, the first few hours are a slow grind of tutorials and unnecessary reminders on how to do things. But if you can get past all of that, there is a good Paper Mario package here. The world is gorgeous and full of fun locations. The collectibles are plentiful, and especially in the case of the Toads, rewarding. The characters, while they aren't completely original, are still memorable. The boss battles are excellent. The combat that isn't in the ring system is too, and I wish they went with that more. The dialogue is hilarious, the music is fantastic, and the story is well made. Knowing when to have dark moments, when to give you memories of laughter, and when to blend in emotion at the right time. It definitely blew my expectations out of the water. They may have been low from the start, but quite frankly, that's what makes this even more special. If it was just an okay game, I'd say it's good, but at the end of the day, it's a great time to be had, and this feels like a new chapter for Intelligent Systems in regards to the redemption arc of Paper Mario. The seeds feel like they've been sown for them to really continue to impress us again with the series. They already reaped the harvest with everything except the combat. That still has time to grow in some areas. Quite frankly, I wouldn't be opposed to the ring system coming back. I'd love to see him try another stab at it again and tweak what made regular encounters so mundane or skippable. They can do it, I know they can. I think Intelligent Systems heard us loud and clear about what we want, and unfortunately with their hands supposedly tied by Nintendo, they can't do much, but they sure as hell gave it their all with Origami King. It breathes much needed life into the series that we thought may never come back. So many people are enjoying the game, and it's only been almost 2 months since it came out. This has to be a boost of morale for everyone involved. A boost I feel like we never knew they truly needed until those interviews came out. If you're looking for a promising return to the series, buy this game. If you've been wanting to get into the series, buy this game, and also check out the others if you can snag them. If you're looking for a solid story and world full of goodies and thrills, buy this game. If you just want to laugh and cry with a lovable cast, buy this game. If you're looking for a true return to form, I wouldn't buy it right away because you might find yourself immediately disappointed. But I want you to think of this first. Yeah, Paper Mario is all about RPG turn-based combat, but it isn't just solely that. It's about the world, it's about the characters, the story, the dialogue, the in-betweens of every story moment that stick with you, the nods to other games and Mario lore. But most importantly, it's about taking the iconic plumber and giving someone who is literally paper thin a whole stuffed amount of character that isn't always seen in the mainline series. When you think of it that way, this game is mostly a return to form, so again, if you're willing to give it a try despite wanting things the way they were, buy this game. At the end of the day, buy this game. This is something you need to experience firsthand to truly understand what the fuss is about, and what makes this bizarre game so magical.
They didn't outright say it in the interview, but I think it's safe to assume that traditional turn-based combat is not making a comeback at any point in the series in the future. And with Nintendo at the developers' throats, it's also safe to assume that we're not getting a true return to the Paper Mario formula, or even the Thousand Year Door port or remake. But if Origami King really is intelligent systems trying to meet fans halfway instead of just churning out Sticker Star after Sticker Star ripoff, then the future's pretty promising. I just hope that they either fix the ring system or find a new way to make the combat interesting again. But so far, I'm glad I gave this game a shot because it has a lot to offer as it is, and I'm really hopeful for the future. These two games right here are the best that the series still has to offer, and they have fans for a reason, and I'm always going to hold them dearly to my heart for how much they've impacted my life. But also, too, don't write off the Origami King just yet. It's still fantastic, and if there's ever a time for old and new Paper Mario fans to jump back into the series, it's this game right here. But with that though, that's going to be a wrap on this review. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'm so sorry it took more than a month. There's a lot of mental health issues that I had to go through. And if I can't be honest about my mental health, then there's no way I'm going to be honest with you guys about a game. But hopefully, you still enjoyed the video. Before I go though, I want to leave you guys with a few questions as usual. Have you picked up the Origami King yet? Have you been enjoying it so far if you have? What do you think of the ring system? And more importantly, and on a personal note, what does the Paper Mario series mean to you guys? Let me know down below in the comments. I look forward to reading all of your wonderful stories about the amazing series that we know and love. And until then, I'm going to put these games up in my new studio that I'm hoping to have cleaned out in the next few months. It'll be somewhat professional, I guess. This is Benson from the Game Dimension signing off. Have a good day, guys.
Oh, I didn't expect this, honestly. I kind of figured if something surprising would happen, it'd be like an item I use around the house being a toad or something origami related. I didn't expect the toad to just be here. Kind of shows I have no budget for this channel, doesn't it? Oh well, at least nothing surprising is gonna happen. So, what can I do for you today, little guy?